Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Friday, April 3rd. I'm Sarith Hawk. It's been decades since New York Times editor Manny Fernandez graduated from Fresno State, but he recently turned his focus back to the Valley to expose sexual abuse allegations against Cesar Chavez.
It turns out that this huge secret history was in my backyard.
Manny reflects on his bombshell story about the late civil rights icon and the fallout after these headlines. Elections experts are warning President Donald Trump's recent executive order on vote-by-mail ballots would disrupt California's electoral process just months before an election. Trump ordered the U.S. Postal Service to assume responsibility for sending out vote-by-mail ballots instead of states. He also tasked federal agencies with determining who is eligible to vote. Kim Alexander with the California Voter Foundation says this is just the latest attack on vote-by-mail ballots, despite a lot of Californians relying on them.
This act is trying to gin up support for the idea that there is election fraud happening in this country through non-citizens voting, and that is simply not true. There's no evidence that is happening.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta says he'll challenge the executive order in court. Trump's other orders relating to elections were blocked by federal courts who say the president doesn't have the authority to establish voting policy. Around 80% of California voters cast their ballots by mail in the 2024 general election. The battle continues in Kings County, where county officials have cut fire services for the city of Avenal. Last weekend, county supervisors voted to end the services after they say Avenal city officials ignored safety issues. The city hosted a boxing tournament inside a building that was deemed unsafe by the county fire chief, John Chamberlain. Speaking at a press conference this week, he said moving forward with the event placed the community in danger.
The city chose to defy the California Fire Code and utilize their newly hired fire chief to deem the building safe to occupy, even though the building has no electricity, fire alarm, and an untested fire sprinkler system.
Kings County officials say Avenal can still receive county services as needed, but the fire station is now shut down. For now, fire station staff have been reassigned to other work. The controversial Delta Tunnel project is beginning to lose financial support from Kern County water districts. Many of these districts have been paying into the Delta Tunnel concept for nearly 20 years. But our newsroom partner, SJV Water, reports at least one has significantly cut its contributions. Several others are considering the same thing. The wavering support comes as state water officials seek to firm up commitments to the project. But water district leaders cited concerns about transparency and rising costs. A judge has ordered a doctor to monitor the health care of the detainees being held at California's largest immigrant detention center. The judge appointed a doctor to serve as an external monitor at the California City Detention Facility. His job will be to ensure that federal immigration officials and staff there comply with a court order to provide proper health care to detainees. Tess Lawson is an attorney with the Prison Law Office, one of the law firms representing plaintiffs in a class action lawsuit related to conditions in California City. She spoke with our news partner, KQED.
At his own desk, the external monitor will be able to log into the medical record system with read-only access and get to see really what ICE's own records show they're failing to provide to the patients at this facility.
The doctor will also have access to people being held at the facility during on-site inspections. California's Department of Public Health will use $5 million from a settlement with nicotine vape maker Juul Labs for a youth anti-vaping campaign. The department says young adults in California vape at more than twice the rate of older adults. The ad campaign, called Not Your Lab Rat, is meant to dispel false beliefs that vaping can help with stress and anxiety. Science shows it can actually deepen depression and amplify mental health struggles.
Your news day doesn't have to end after Central Valley Daily. Check out KVPR's broadcast, where you'll get top headlines, in-depth analysis, and some fun pop culture coverage. Stream KVPR online at kvpr.org or through your smart speaker.
And now to our main story. Public condemnation was swift after the New York Times published allegations last month that Cesar Chavez abused women and girls while leading the farm labor movement in the 1960s and 70s. This news outlet has been covering the fallout in the Valley, where Chavez was an icon and hero. And as many continue to process this news, today we're bringing you a peek inside the bombshell investigation. Manny Fernandez co-authored the report with his colleague, Sarah Hertz. He's also a Valley native. KVPR's Elizabeth Arkalian spoke with Manny about how this investigation unexpectedly connected him back to his San Joaquin Valley roots.
You are the California editor at large at the Times, but you're also a Fresno native and a graduate of Fresno State. Your grandparents were farm workers. It sounds like this was a deeply personal story to report.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm born and raised in Fresno, and I went to Sacred Heart, went to San Joaquin Memorial High School, and then went to Fresno State. And, it's strange, like, especially when you're in the media and when you're a reporter, you sort of think that, like, okay, I got to leave where I'm from because the world is big and I got to do journalism somewhere else, right, other than home. But then this story, it turns out that this huge secret history was in my backyard. And so it was important to me. It was important to me to get it right. It was important to me that our first story talked about his legacy and talked about what he meant to so many people. So I hope it sort of helped that sort of nuance, writing about all these, places that I know and love, and it just hopefully added a little bit of texture, hopefully a little bit of, I don't know, soul or something to the story.
The reaction to your investigation was so swift. California renamed March 31st from Cesar Chavez Day to Farm Workers Day. Your alma mater, Fresno State, covered and then took down the statue of Cesar Chavez pretty much immediately after your report was published. What did you make of the public's rapid condemnation of Chavez, who was previously lauded as a hero, not just locally, but nationally, of course?
I mean, I think I sort of watched as stunned as everyone else. When you're a reporter, it's a very dangerous business to predict what's going to happen after your story publishes. I've worked on many stories, and I was convinced that, oh my gosh, when this publishes, it'll be such a big deal. And then the story publishes and it's crickets, and you don't know exactly how the public will react to what you publish. We just focused on telling the best story we could. And so once, things started happening, I think we sort of watched as stunned as everyone else.
So much attention has also been rightfully paid to the victims. How do you grapple with knowing that your reporting would effectively dismantle this Chavez legacy? I mean, it's a completely new moment. Your investigation was like a demarcation.
Yeah, it was. I can get very cheesy on this very quickly, so I'm sorry in advance.
No.
In advance, but journalism is a calling, and I believe in my calling. This is all that I know how to do. When I was a student at Fresno State in the journalism program, I was reading the national pages of the New York Times, and I was like, I want to do that someday. There was a whole swath of people and women who were carrying around a secret for decades, and it was eating them up alive, and they were very reluctant to talk about it. And Sarah and I are just two reporters, and it just took a lot of time to get these women to tell us what happened, and then to corroborate what they're telling us. And I guess that's how I look at it. I just believe that like journalism is a calling and that it matters. And when done right, it can make change.
And it's not just the writing and the fact checking and the interviews you did. It's that trust building with the victims whose stories you told, right?
Yes. Yeah. Ana Murguia, one of the women in our story, told me in 2021 she wasn't ready to talk and she didn't want to talk. Deborah Rojas, also another woman in our story, told me in 2021 she didn't want to talk. Called her back at some point. Different points she blocked me from her phone. And meanwhile, we're sort of reporting on Cesar Chavez's relationships with them and other women, and we're hearing other things, talking to other people, looking at documents, and it becomes clear that these two women do have a story to tell, and it was worth politely going back to them to say, we're learning more about what happened, and are you ready to talk? And then sometimes the answer would be no, I'm not ready, and it's just a polite okay, and I'll be here when you do want to talk, and you go away. And then eventually they are ready and they do want to talk, and that process is slow. You're sort of there to listen, and then they tell you some of the story, and then you come back later and they tell you more. And it was literally, again, from 2021, those two women told me no, to today, it was worth the wait.
KVPR has done a lot of reporting on the local fallout of your investigation here in the San Joaquin Valley. My colleagues Carrie Klein and Israel Cardona Hernandez spoke with farm workers and Delano residents. And some farm workers said on the record that they don't believe the victims. Is that a sentiment you also heard or were prepared for?
It doesn't surprise me. As we say in our story, we found evidence to support their accusations that either come from people they told a long time ago or from other sort of documentation where this comes up. I think some people read the story, or they read part of the story, or they don't take time to have that sort of sink in. But I mean, I get it. I understand it. But we have pretty solid evidence to support what they're saying.
It's a lot to digest. People
Yeah.
don't like to see their heroes fall. And quite frankly, a lot of people don't like this topic in general. It's difficult to talk about. I'm curious what's next for you, Manny. Are you planning any follow-ups, and just kind of where your head is next?
Sure. Yeah. And just to linger on that a little bit, throughout the course of reporting this story, people told us, he's not here anymore. Why are you doing this? I mean, we heard so many people say so many reasons about why we should not tell the story. And some of these were people that did know that things happened. And at one point, after the story published, I was talking to Deborah Rojas, one of the women in the story. And she was seeing that on social media, like what's their motivation? Why now? And Deborah said something that still sticks with me. And Deborah said, I have an answer to that. And I said, Deb, what is it? And she said, why not now? When is a good time? When would be the perfect time for her to finally come out and talk about this for the first time? And I thought that was just very powerful in it.
Yeah.
And it stuck with me. And then on your other question, I mean, basically, Sarah and I have been busy, and we are still reporting out this story. We're still interviewing people. We're still talking to women. And so there will be other stories to come. We're sort of just in the middle of working on them.
Manny Fernandez, California editor-at-large for the New York Times. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And that is today's show. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden, Carrie Klein, and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Sarith Hawk. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.